Okay, thank you very much. I assume you can hear me and see me. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Now I'm gonna try to get rid of me. Let's see if I can do that. Yes, okay, great. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let's see, I want to talk about just some general points really about why koans and why the koan mu really in advance of the retreat starting tomorrow with Valerie. Quite a number of our Sangha are sitting with mu. I mean, by no means the only practice, of course, but a fair number are. And since we're, having some deep days of sitting together, I thought it'd be possibly helpful to address mu a little bit. By the way, Valerie and I, just so that you know, we've figured out how we're gonna, so what we're doing with Tay shows and talks, So basically, tomorrow, Friday, and Sunday, Valerie will give a Tay show, and I will do Q&A in the afternoons. And Saturday morning, I'll give the Tay show, and Valerie will do Q&A in the afternoon. So that's our little plan. So hopefully you'll get a sort of fairly even dose of each of us, so to speak, although a slightly different format. Oh, I know. Another little point of housekeeping I wanted to mention is that we've got regular posting happening on Instagram now from Luke Weenson. So if you're at all interested, in that sort of thing, check it out and follow us. I guess that's the right term. And another very kind student in Stockholm, Sangha member Seth, is going to be doing Twitter for Mountain Cloud as well. So I don't know whether he started, but if anytime soon, or possibly already has started. Unfortunately, I don't do either Twitter or Instagram myself, so I just got Instagram on my phone to sort of find out a little bit more what it is really. And actually I saw there's quite a bit already posted on Mountain Cloud. It has its, I think you just have to put in Mountain Cloud and it comes up. And Twitter, I haven't yet got it on my phone, but I will be getting it. So anyway, those of you who are into that kind of thing, please, add it to your roster of things you check and follow. And those of you who aren't, please, try it out. It looks like it could be kind of fun. The Instagram especially has a lot of photographs, very nice pictures, So, okay, I want to talk about some background points about koans, and I'm going to start by reading a passage from this book called The Hidden Lamp, which I've had it was given to me actually some years ago, very kindly. Came out in 2013. Basically, it's a book of, and the main point about it is that it's women ancestors in the Buddhist and Zen tradition. I mean, the Zen tradition, but including early centuries of Buddhism, not just, Zen emerging in its form that it found in China in about the 6th century, prior to that as well. And so I'm going to read it's a set of stories, really it's mostly stories, little stories. Here and there there's a koan. And then a comment by a contemporary teacher, woman teacher of Zen or Buddhism. And this one, I'm going to just read the original story from, I guess, from the Pali Canon. And it's about Bada Kundalakesa. Bada Kundalakesa cannot answer, it's called. Bada Kundalakesa was a wandering Jain ascetic, famous for her debating skills. Whenever she came to a new place, she would set a branch of rose apple in the ground, kind of stick it in, and put out word that whoever wished to debate her should trample the branch. When she was 70 years old, she came to Savatthi, and Buddha's disciple Shariputra came forward to engage her in a public debate. First, she asked a series of philosophical questions of Shariputra, and he was able to answer them all. Then he said, "You have asked many questions. I would like to ask only one." She said, "Please ask, Venerable One." Shariputra asked, "One, what is that?" Again, his question. One, what is that? She was unable to answer. He said, "If you don't know even that, how could you know anything else?" And began to teach her the Dharma. She was so moved by the teachings that she fell at his feet and asked to take refuge with him. But instead he told her to come and meet the Buddha. The Buddha recognized her spiritual maturity and said to her, "One phrase that brings peace is better than 1,000 words that have no use." When she heard this, she was freed and became an arahant. Then the Buddha ordained her, saying simply, "Bada, come." Okay, so just a couple of points to bring out in this story is that, you know, she's sort of remarkably developed in kind of dialogic, debating, philosophical spirituality, which assuredly has its place. It's just that in the stream of Buddhism from which Zen comes, there's nothing like direct, personal, experiential realization. And that's what Shariputra has developed in. So after their philosophical debating, he comes back simply asking one question. One, what is that? And she's not able to respond. She hasn't been developed in this way so much as yet. However, you might notice that when Buddha meets her, his comment is that, or the comment in the story is that he recognized her spiritual maturity. I think this is rather beautiful because as soon as she is not able to respond to Shariputra's question, she's so moved by hearing the Dharma, just the beginnings, that she falls at his feet and asks to take refuge. She just has no pride. There's no pride getting in the way. She's just ready. You know, it's not like anything's wrong. You know, she's just been maturing, developing in a certain way. And now the time has come where she's ripe and ready to develop in another way that is more in line with this Zen way, because it involves directly awakening. And Buddha recognizes that as soon as he meets her. And he says one phrase, like, you know all these many philosophical doctrines and propositions and abstruse notions. But actually, one phrase that brings peace is better than 1,000 phrases that have no use, that can't bring peace. Just one word that brings peace is vastly more valuable than any number of philosophical propositions. And she just hears that and is immediately freed and becomes an arahant, which is the highest level of realization in early Theravada Buddhism. You know, there's stream entry. I can't remember how they were. Once returner, non-returner, and arahant is the highest of all. She, in other words, she immediately has, as we would call it, very profound awakening and is infinitely liberated, just like that. You know, and so let's just take this to Mu. One phrase, one word, one syllable, one sound, Mu, Mu. Now, it doesn't bring peace through concept. It doesn't, you know, sort of comfort and reassure us and give us some solace through ideas. That has its place. That kind of nice spiritual stories that can help us feel better. There's a ton of them, you know, in all traditions. But this Mu thing is not like that. It's a different way of coming to pervasive peace just through Mu, just the sound, just the syllable, just the phenomenon Mu. It's so unlike sort of what we're used to. We're used to living on a kind of diet of concepts, eating concepts constantly, consuming concepts, ideas, notions. Or is it, you know, that lovely Woody Allen line in Annie Hall, when he's in Hollywood, you know, I've got this concept for an idea. It says, well, at the moment, what does he say? If the moment is just a notion, but I'm working it up into a concept, and then I hope to sell it as an idea, you know, you know, that Hollywood sort of stuff, you know. But so I'm not sure whether it's notion, concept, idea. I think we eat them all, and lots of assumptions, presuppositions, you know, things that we don't question. Mu asks us to transfer not just our attention, but may I say sort of our allegiance, our trust, our conviction, I think allegiance is the word I want right now. Mu asks us to transfer our allegiance to nothing but one little syllable, Mu. It's so hard because, you know, it's so counter to what we've done for as long as we can remember. But what are the rewards of doing it? Well, we get a glimpse of that with Buddha Kundalakesa. I'm going to now turn to another woman ancestor of ours, a Zen practitioner in the 13th century. So again, Buddhist, you know, but just this even more focused on this awakening Buddhism, just awakening Buddhism. Chiyono. So now permit me to read about Chiyono now, because this is, again, a little vignette from the same book, The Hidden Lamp. Chiyono was a servant in a Zen convent who wanted to practice Zazen. One day, she approached an elderly nun and asked, I am of humble birth. I can't read or write. I must work all the time. Is there any possibility that I could attain the way of Buddha even though I have no skills. The nun answered her, "This is wonderful, my dear. In Buddhism, there are no distinctions between people. There is only this. Each person must hold fast to the desire to awaken and cultivate a heart of great compassion. People are complete as they are. If you don't fall into delusive thoughts, there is no Buddha and no sentient being." I'll just repeat that. If you don't fall into delusive thoughts, there is no Buddha and no sentient being. There is only one complete nature. If you want to know your true nature, you need to turn toward the source of your delusive thoughts. This is called Zazen. Chiyono said, "With happiness, with this practice as my companion, I have only to go about my daily life, practicing day and night." In other words, she can make her daily life Zazen. After months of wholehearted practice, she went out one full moon night to draw some water from the well. The bottom of her old bucket, held together by bamboo strips, suddenly gave way, and the reflection of the moon vanished with the water. When she saw this, she attained great realization. So she's hauling water with this old bucket she's got that's held together with strips of bamboo. She's pulling it out on this moonlit night, hefting up the full bucket, and it, it's held together with these sort of strips of bamboo, and boom, it gives way. The bottom falls out and the water disappears, and with it the reflection of the moon that has been on the water. And actually she composed an enlightenment poem. I mean, I guess maybe somebody else wrote it down for her, but it's come down to us like this. With this and that, I tried to keep the bucket together, and then the bottom fell out. Where water does not collect, the moon does not dwell. With this and that, I tried to keep the bucket together, and then the bottom fell out. Where water doesn't collect, the moon doesn't dwell. Total, total, total liberation. It's very kind of nice that this story actually is sort of literal, picking up of a phrase in Zen. They talk about, it goes way back, they're talking about the bottom of the bucket falling out. It's a phrase sometimes used for deep, deep awakening, like deeper than what we call kensho, where really everything's just gone, and it's just a complete release, a sort of universal release. And this is what happened to Chiyono. It's so beautiful, and her life changed completely, and she became a great inspiration for many women practitioners, actually, and of course in time lots of men as well. And this particular story in this book, The Hidden Lamp, is picked up on by a contemporary Buddhist teacher, Merle Kodo Boyd, and she loves this story, and she says, that she actually, Chiyono was the first Japanese woman to receive Dharma transmission, and became the founder of the first Zen convent in Japan. And she says, this is Merle Kodo Boyd now, "When I first heard Chiyono's verse, I've been practicing for 10 or 12 years. I was keenly aware of the constant tension of keeping the bucket together. I understood that the intent of practice was to relax my grip on the old bucket. But conditioning runs deep, and the sense of personal identity is strong. Hearing the words, with this and that, I felt the exhaustion of years of vigilance, all aimed at protecting my idea of myself. We are conditioned to keep the bucket from falling to pieces. Unique personal circumstances can intensify this general condition. I was in the first generation of Southern Black children consciously raised to enter integrated schools. In such circumstances, everything seems to ride on keeping it together, especially in public. And so we were conscientious and hyper-vigilant in order to prevent disaster. And yet we Zen students have chosen a path that calls us in the opposite direction. In spite of our conditioning, we are called to awareness rather than vigilance. We are on a path of no water, no moon. Our conditioning tells us that this is a risky path, and yet we sense its offer of freedom and feel called to take it. Ironically, it was precisely that condition of keeping it all together that gave me the courage to walk into a Zen center for the first time. I have been trained to tolerate the circumstance of being other, to maintain a public identity in places where I was allowed, but perhaps not welcome. Like the schools and libraries of my childhood, Zen centers offered something that I deeply needed, a place to experience my life in the world more deeply. I hoped I would be welcome at a Zen center, and I also knew that it could be otherwise. To walk into this uncertainty, I relied on being outwardly upright while keenly aware of inner fears. As Zen students, we live between Chiyono's first two lines and her second two lines, between keeping things from falling apart and letting them fall apart. Knowing how to keep things together is a valuable skill. It was knowing how to care for things that led Chiyono to continually patch her bucket. When it fell apart, she made excellent use of that circumstance as well. Our liberation deepens with the refinement of our capacity for flexibility and discernment. The liberation that I was raised to seek is one aspect of the liberation we speak of in the Dharma. In the community of my childhood, our efforts were directed primarily toward gaining entrance into schools, access to employment, access to housing, to services that made life more comfortable. But awareness of our essential and undeniable freedom comes only with awareness that we and all things are without self. The one who is liberated must be allowed to disappear like the water and the moon. Moving between patched bucket and bottomless bucket, I can exercise my freedom to keep things together or let things come apart according to the circumstances. I have come to trust the true freedom of living where the moon does not dwell. So that very beautiful little essay, commentary, is by Merle Kodo Boyd, who runs a Zen center. Perhaps it's in the Northeast, I'm thinking. It's in it's in New Jersey, in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Now, okay, koans are all basically support and encouragement and invitation to somehow let things go. That's their purpose. They're expressions of people like Chiyono, like Merle Kodo Boyd, who have let go in this fundamental way. Koans are simply expressions of what that profound awakening that is right here, right here, right here now, of what it is. It's simply the sharing of it. And this is, this is really a reason we start with Mu very often, is that it's so clear and so simple and so plain, and you just can't really take it any other way. It's a kind of unholdable koan. You can't wrap your mind around it. You can't really add any strips of bamboo to it. No concepts can really attach to it. There are other koans that you can sort of think about, like what's your original face before even your parents were born. I mean, I've known students who kind of would get with that and sort of start thinking about quantum physics and Big Bang, and I don't know, that you can kind of, I mean, this is sitting with it for years. You can get into some concepts about it. But Mu, what can you think about? I mean, how can you approach it conceptually? Mu. Yeah, I don't think you can really. We will, when we start sitting, we will find ways to, but they're going to slide off. It's a smooth stone. Nothing will really stick to it. It's just Mu. It's just that. There's nothing more. Mu. And if we can find the patience, and I think also the trust, to keep coming back to it and not give up on it, to really be still, and still in body, still in mind, still in heart. Sort of a real deep, pervading stillness. And let Mu be present in that stillness, just as itself. Things happen. Things happen. It's very, you know, as a teacher in the privileged position of sort of knowing a bit more about other people's practice than we might otherwise, you know, being entrusted with, you know, glimpses into other people's practice that they're very, you know, it's a great honor to have, you know, it's humbling to see other people's practice in kind of an intimate way that a teacher gets to. But really, to see it, it's very unpredictable. It's infinitely unpredictable. It astonishes me. Okay, one other point I want to just draw out is that may I just say this, at this time of our reawakening, our recognizing of the appalling oppression in this country, racial oppression. You know, something like 1 in 3. No, I'm not going to hazard statistics I'm not sure of. But anyway, we all know what a terrible situation this country offers in terms of oppression. Not offers, subjects onto, oppresses onto a large part of its population. We're all recognizing that more and more. And at this time, you know, we're simply not going to look away. We're making it central to our practice. Why so? Well, I want to read a little passage of commentary on Dogen. This is by a scholar called Leah Kalmanson in an essay called Buddhism and Bell Hooks. You know, she's writing about basically Dogen and the feminist author Bell Hooks, seeing a deep congruence between the two. And she says, the transformative potential of Dogen's philosophy lies in his explicitly non-transcendent view of nirvana. For Dogen, nirvana does not mean a state beyond the constant arising and passing away of the impermanent world. It does not mean transcending or escaping ordinary, everyday existence. Dogen writes, understand that birth and death itself is, just in other words, nirvana. This moment, here, just as you are, just as this moment is, this is infinite awakening, boundless, bottomless bucket. Just this. There is nothing one should avoid as birth and death, and there is nothing one should seek as nirvana. That's Dogen. Now, Leah Kalmanson again. No enlightened state offers an escape from the interpersonal involvements of everyday life or overcomes the impermanence of such involvements. To the contrary, realizing liberation involves a compassionate commitment to the world in its lived immediacy. Now, actually, there's a lot more in this rather complicated but very deep article that I might touch on in coming talks, but I'm going to leave it there for now and just emphasize, yes, Mu is our, traditional gateway koan, opening koan, breakthrough koan. Mu, the gateless gate, the barrier. It's a barrier because it's just mu. And I'm not mu, and there's mu. It's a barrier that I place in front of myself willingly in my practice. It's a barrier because I know somehow it in itself contains the infinite resolution of my life. But how on earth does it do that? I have no idea how. I've heard it. I kind of sort of sign on for that, maybe, but it certainly is not doing it now. It's just a frustrating little practice that I've been given, maybe. But I'm doing it, mu. But it actually has the potential to show you that it itself, mu itself, is not just the whole universe. It's also you. It's you. It's the gateless gate that allows us to discover who and what we are. But having done that, it's not over. It's like our real life begins. The life that wells up from that liberative realization, where just as long as we're alive, we want to try to help, serve, alleviate suffering. That's really, we want to give expression to the infinite love that we've discovered. We want to be its hands and its eyes. And we don't have to make ourselves want that. It just wells up. And this is what Dogen's talking about. The, coming, that it's actually this very moment that is awakening. And it's this very moment that we tend to. There's nothing one should avoid as birth and death, and there's nothing one should seek as nirvana. And then comment, to the contrary, realizing liberation is a compassionate commitment to the world. That's end of tonight's talk. And those of you who are, settling in tomorrow, we'll have more koan exploration and exploration of who and what we are, and of how we might manifest realization ever more helpfully, in the world today at this moment, as this context we're in and the circumstance we're in is unfolding right now. The very best of our ability, while we have the chance, while we're here in these skin bags, doing our best. Okay, thank you very much, and see some of you tomorrow. Thank you.